Hi, everyone. Happy... It's Monday, right? Happy
It is
Monday?
Monday.
Can y'all hear... Oh, wait. I don't think you're very loud, Dan. Let me turn you up. Can y'all hear Dan? I don't think anyone's in here
Hello,
yet.
hello.
Hopefully. It looks like I'm picking up the audio. So, hopefully that's
Oh, I
working
should.
out for us.
Okay, I need to
Ah,
probably get.
Jim heard him. Heard you. So
Yep.
that's good.
Hey, Alex. This is mine. I need to get your audio in mine. That is a good point.
Oh, my audio isn't in yours? How is everyone's day so far? I've had like a super busy day. So that's cool.
Yeah, this is day. Okay. I do need, and I don't understand why.
Boy, it's not picking my voice.
Yeah. I'm also not hearing the desktop audio
Hmm.
on my. So this could be something with my headphones. Perhaps.
I
Let me
feel like
restart them.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I had something like that happen once. Like where it, the, I don't remember how I fixed it, but today's been good. Reviewing stuff for 100 devs. Hopefully resuming this week. Yeah, that would be exciting. It's been a couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, hey, Interplanet. I'm excited for this week because after this, I'm going to a job fair. I'm very nervous. I've never been to a job fair before. And going to see if they have any software engineering roles. So wish me luck. Haven't worked on an elevator pitch. That's cool. It's fine. It's fine. And then I have an interview on either Wednesday or Friday. That is exciting to me. Thank you, Ty. Job fairs are good because you meet any employers at once. So it's actually just like one employer. So it's Northrop Grumman. They're opening up like a or expanding on their facilities in Utah where I live. And so they sent me an email where they were like, "Do you want to come to our job fair?" And I was like, "Well, I guess." So, but then every time they
I
send
don't
the
know why I have the
email,
mic muted either. Hold on.
oh, is it still not working? Oh, wait, no, I can't hear you. It could before, but now I can't. Thanks, Giles. Yeah, I don't think I qualify for any of their roles. And then whenever I see their like emails, they say that they're looking for like electricians and stuff, but like they reached out to me and sent me the thing. So I was like, well, maybe they have software engineering roles. Anyway, we'll see what happens.
Okay,
Is
I
it
think I
picking
can
up
hear you.
my audio?
No, I think it was.
It
Man,
was.
I'm having trouble with this.
Hmm. You normally pick two interplanet? Nice. Thanks, Jam. Thanks, Giles. Start developing a relationship with the hiring team. Yeah. But is it weird if I like show up and I'm like, hi, you're not hiring for my job, but like, hey, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna go. I'm wearing my fancy shirt, so my fancy shirt that's summer appropriate. I'm good, Lark. How's you? Going to a job fair this afternoon. I was telling everyone I was nervous, because I am nervous. It might be us. 100 days, so. Hey, Fridish. Yeah. It's okay if it goes bad. Like, it's just like every other interview I've had. But the interview I have on like Wednesday or Friday, not sure what they've chosen, I'm really hopeful for it because they said it's mostly behavioral. And that means they don't really care if I'm technical, which is where I always fail. Is it picking me up, Dan?
I believe so, yes.
Great. All right, let's get started then. Hey everyone. I'm streaming with Dan. You can't see Dan, but you can hear them. So you know they're there. Did we get religious? I don't know. Anyway, but Dan, Dan
You can
is.
see the effects of the Dan, but you can't see the Dan.
I don't see Dan anywhere. Looks around room. Yeah, no. Dan has been around. You hung around the stream. You've been around like 4 months, isn't it?
But yeah, I think my sub is about 4 months, and
Yeah.
I know we did a co-stream quite a few weeks ago. So thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me back.
Yeah, Dan was the first co-stream. You're the one who started it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't think about it beforehand. And then after our stream, Peter was like, yo, how about us too? And I was like, okay. So I'm
Peter's
really
like,
glad
I
to
can do
have
it
you
better.
back. Yeah. Well, Peter, yeah. Peter's great. But
Mm-hmm.
we aren't covering, I guess we did cover the same topic. I worked on the dictionary with both of you. But today, I asked Dan last week, I was like, yo, Dan, do any of these topics look like something you could like teach to me in the stream? And you were like, yeah, it is. This one and this one is test-driven development. So over like the past, like I feel like off and on the past few weeks, like people just been like, "Well, have you written tests?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know how to write. I don't know anything about that." So I'm really excited because today Dan's gonna walk us through it from the very very basics, and we're gonna figure out what test-driven development is.
Oh yeah. Only the best, most beginner-friendly test-driven development chat.
Interplanet doesn't know how tests work in VS Code. Me neither. I don't either. So we're on a Figma jam. Um, do you want to share the link or should I? I think I got it. Never mind. Here, I'm sharing my chat.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let me get that link there and share it to mine. Just to click the share button, copy the link, paste the link in the chat.
There you
There we
go.
are. It's beautiful.
All right, let's get to it.
So
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was gonna say if anyone has questions, feel free to ask in my chat, or you can go to Dan's chat and they'll probably see it faster. They're streaming right now as well. Anyway, go on, Dan.
Yeah. Okay. So test-driven development. But first, I thought we might talk about testing. And talk about like what is testing, why we might want to test in general, and then we can talk about how test-driven development differs as a practice. So, do you think most people test their code before they ship it?
I mean, I guess it depends on how experienced they are. I would say like the senior or the experienced people do probably. I don't think the juniors do though.
Yeah, I would actually say most people probably test their code. Right?
Oh
You
yeah.
type you type a program or you add some CSS and then you run it to see if it works. So that's essentially manually testing.
Hmm.
What we're going to talk about here is automated testing.
Oh.
And some of the advantages of automating the tests are it's much faster, right? And it's going to be able to test many more things. So if you have a function that is supposed to like take someone's first name and last name and put it together and display it somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
you might type in what's called the happy path, where you give it an actual first name and an actual last name. But you probably don't manually test what happens if they put in like a number, or what if they paste in
Mm.
like enough text to fill a dictionary, or what if they paste in text that happens to be a JavaScript or an HTML script tag and have some code in it. So that's one reason automated tests are nice, because you can test a bunch of things quickly. Another thing is, once you are moved on from this project, automated tests can continue to run because you've already written it every time you commit or make a change. So not only can you test the current thing you're working on, but you can test all the code you wrote 6 months and a year ago to make sure you didn't break anything. And
Mm.
it's also very nice when you're in a group or on a team that is developing with multiple developers, if they want to work on a piece of code, they can feel more confident making changes to either their old code or your code, because they're confident that the tests will tell them if they broke something immediately, as opposed to having to wait for it to get to the users.
Okay.
You ever have that experience where you were looking at some like huge CSS file or some code that someone else wrote and you didn't understand all the things it did, so you were afraid to change it? I don't know if
Yes.
you've been in that boat, but what happens is people are afraid, reasonably afraid to change it, so they will add something of their own they made instead of messing with something that could be tied to a bunch of important stuff. And you end up with like a lot of duplicate code, and it gets messy over time as a project goes from 6 months to 2 years, etc. If you have good tests, automated tests in your code base, it tells them right away. Like they'll get feedback in seconds. Like our project that we've been working on for a couple of years has like 800 automated tests or something, and it runs in a couple seconds, and it tells you right away, or it gives you a good, reasonable confidence that you didn't break any existing functionality.
So like, would I mean, would like every test run every time you like start the database, or only when like there's like the function, or you're doing like a specific function or something?
That's a good question, and that leads probably us into this thing. Well, we got this testing pyramid here. So what we're going to talk about today is this bottom section of the pyramid, the unit tests. So the unit tests are going to be the smallest, most isolated tests. So you're thinking like one function that does one thing. Okay.
Right.
So if you had some calculator program, right, it might have a bunch of functions in it, but you might have a function that just adds numbers and another function that multiplies numbers, right? So you're just testing each of those pieces, and you're not testing the whole calculator.
Right.
So so service tests, or sometimes called integration tests, those might be more like a whole component, right? Several smaller functions together. You might test the whole calculator code from a larger piece. So these are more complicated. They have more pieces. They'll run a little slower. So they're a little more difficult to make and maintain. Then the last one is either UI tests or end-to-end tests. And this is where the part where you actually test your app connecting to databases and stuff like that. These are the slowest because they usually involve network calls. And they're also the most difficult to make. You have to manage like test data on servers and have to deal with network connections and problems. So there's usually fewer of these than the other two. But they also basically test the same thing that your user is going to do. Like your user is going to navigate to a website, and they're going to enter information into a form and hit send or add or whatever it may be. So that's the benefit of them, but the trade-off is they're harder to do. And if we have time today, we can show like a tool, either like Cypress or Playwright, that kind of give an example of how those are done.
So unit tests would be, I mean, like I can't say what like testing frameworks or testing syntax looks like. So I'm just going to do this with what I know. So like unit test would be like console log calling a function with certain parameters, right? Sort of.
Yeah, you have a function. We're going to look at a function. We can say add two numbers, or you have a function that was it just finds an element in an array. It's very small, specific stuff, and that's kind of what unit tests are for.
And so service tests, I'm a little confused between this and the UI test. Like when we were working on the talking dictionary, we were trying to do like a GET request, for example, and we were testing that in Postman or something like that. That would be a service test, or that would be a UI test.
If you're, I would probably call it like a service test or an integration test. So you're testing something that's going to like include network calls. You know, it's not super precise, these definitions, but if you're making an API call over the network, I would definitely call that not a unit test.
Okay. Have I ever
You're
done anything like a UI test? Do you know?
manually you have. You just, you know, you wrote code, you entered the information, you then loaded up the browser, you entered information into a form on the browser, and that HTML input element then called your actual JavaScript code, and then you checked the output in the console, something like that. Or you
Okay.
checked, you know, you done it on your database, on your the Native American language
Mm-hmm.
dictionary that you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you modified code, then you loaded the browser, you entered something in, you checked to see if it was entered into the database, etc.
Okay. Okay. I think I got it then.
Someone's asking me, Interplanet Me is asking me, can you do tests that check for like SQL injection? Let's see here. Do automated tests that check for security guidelines. I'm not sure I have a great answer for that. On the one hand, you can write your code to make sure that some part of your code will escape certain characters so that if someone sends an input string that contains like HTML or JavaScript or script tags, that the output then escapes all those things. Um, Usually what I do is just use tools that have that kind of security built in, or make sure some part of the process between when you take input from the user to where you store it into the database is it gets sanitized. As far as like an audit, I'm not sure if there's a way to do that. I know you can look at like GitHub's Dependabot alerts or other security things that will say if specific packages have security problems like that, that, you know, can have script injection.
I don't know what script injection is, but it sounds fancy.
Um, like say you had an input, like a text input form, right? And you know, like you're all right in this little blue square here, right? Text input, right? And you know, you had your field. So this might ask someone for their full name. So you're probably thinking along the happy path where they'll just say, you know, hey, that's my full name. But what if they do script, you know, doing this, uh, and we'll just say console log, blah. Okay. But if your code takes the input and then immediately, you know, sends it to your and displays it in your HTML, right? If this, oops, if this string is valid HTML, it could get executed as code, um, which, depending on the situation, could be a problem. And it's really bad if your code tries to execute user submitted stuff like as code. Like there's usually some form of an exec function in JavaScript or in Python, and then you just don't want to do that. So,
Okay.
but anyway,
Okay.
where were we? We're going to focus on unit tests.
Okay.
So
Unit
I
tests.
think we should get to the writing of some actual code here for fun.
Let's do it.
All right, if you open up the old
VS Code.
VS Code, make a folder, start writing some stuff. Basically follow the little repo I made and I shared with you earlier.
Okay.
If you want, you can just make a new folder in that repo if you already cloned it.
You know, I haven't. I should do that. I should clone it. I haven't cloned a repo in like forever and ever. Okay, hold up.
Thoughts on visual regression testing? I have not used it too much. I know Jest has something called snapshot testing, which will basically take a snapshot of the HTML text with all the CSS and stuff. And if there's been any changes, it will alert you. I've done that before. I found I had more false positives, especially during development, than I liked. So I've usually turned that off. I get more bang for my buck with a lot of unit tests, making sure the logic that I've written works, and then letting visual bugs kind of not setting as a high of a priority on them.
Okay.
I've heard of Percy before.
Okay. Took me a little bit, but I'm here. All right.
Gotcha.
So I'm making a separate folder within this, or are we going to like part 1 or part 2 or part 3?
I would make a new folder, and we'll just try and like really do this from scratch. And then I think you need to give me the live share link or something.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Possible.
I don't know why my brain didn't do that. Here, wait a second. Let me get it to you.
So Intelligence is asking some good questions in your chat.
Okay.
Do I charge extra for TDD? I practice TDD as kind of part of my normal process in most of my code writing. So I would just build it in. I think that I would probably skip a lot of the integration and unit testing level unless a client really wanted like health checks and stuff on their website and had or they liked the idea of having this automated test that showed that the code met their specifications. Let's see here. The other question was, I think it's a good idea that Rufio and others should learn how unit testing and automated testing works. I don't think you have to master it by any means, but I think it's going to be very powerful, especially when you start working with other people. So it's going to be, I think it's going to earn a lot of brownie points. I don't know if every company is going to require it, but if you're already familiar with it, it's a lot less that then they have to teach you. But it's hard to practice, so it takes some discipline. It feels awkward and slow when you can just write, the code to write. So you kind of have to think about what the function needs to do first. So we'll see. We'll demonstrate this, but I would say it's nice to be able to practice and show some examples. I would probably put this before learning something like TypeScript. I think.
Wow.
Not to master it, but just to be able to make some unit tests for your code. And then as you practice it, you can judge for yourself when it pays off. But I would just start set aside one day and be like, look, all the code I'm going to write today, I'm going to do test-driven development first, which means writing the test first. And then you just kind of practice that. And as you get better at it, it'll feel more natural. You get into a rhythm and it won't feel as slow. Is a unit test required for every code? No, well, it's not required, but I think it's a good practice. You want as much test coverage as you can. I think you'll get diminishing returns if you try to get every line of code covered. There are tools that measure this. So, the more you get in the habit, the less you'll have to go back and write tests later to up your code coverage. So,
I sent you the live share link in our Google Meet.
Gotcha. All right, copy.
Shaw says, because I was wondering, if we spend so much time writing tests, what exactly does a QA
do? My understanding would be a QA would handle more complex stuff than the unit tests. They might also be doing more exploratory testing. You have to kind of know what you're testing. You have to know the problem to test for it. So QA team might do more complex testing.
Megabox says, any chance mocks will be covered? I don't know what mocks are.
Mocks and stubs are probably not going to be covered today in our amount of time, but we can. I'll talk about what they are. You want unit tests to run very fast, and you don't want to deal with network connections or database calls or file system calls. So things like mocks and stubs are used to fake those connections. So instead of calling the actual database, your code will you can stub the function that calls the database, and it will return fake data instead, so that you control the test more and runs faster. If we run out of time, I could probably just show some examples of mocks and stuff that I've written.
We can also do it. I have a timeline, but we could raid you after this, and then you could go in and show those things if you wanted to.
Okay, yeah, we'll see what happens when we get to that point. I got lost track. Am I?
You were trying to join the life share.
I think I did the wrong thing. I want to stop collaboration session. I want to join. Yes, use this link.
From what I gathered online, if a company has like team A, B, and C and each create a module in the product, the QA might test the integration between those modules, while the teams test their modules separate from the other modules. So kind of bigger picture.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It takes more effort to make the integration tests, or the stuff a QA team might cover. So you might have dedicated people to do that. I work at a very small company. It's like me and two other people. So I don't have a QA team. We just do lots of unit tests and some end-to-end testing. Let's see here. Do you think companies with larger dev teams should encourage this to be done by QA? I think there's a lot of benefit, especially for the test-driven development, to the developer who's writing the code needs to write the test for that level. And then whether the top stuff is done by a separate team is kind of just an organizational decision.
Okay. Okay. Did you...
Session's no longer available.
What? Okay.
Sorry, I think I took too long.
No, let me just try it again. Hold it. Okay. There you go. There's another one. Hopefully it works this time.
All right. Okay. Copy. Join. Paste. Please work.
It hasn't worked yet, or else it would be like, Dan has joined.
Sounds good.
But it hasn't told you you've joined, right? Did you get the link?
Says I got the joining opening remote session. See the project or the folder name.
Oh, you got it. You're in. I see you.
I'm in. Let me in. Let me in. Where's the folder structure?
I see part 1, 2, 3, and then I added TDD. I don't know where it is. It looks like you haven't expanded it. The hell, it's Rufio TTD.
I expand and there's nothing there. Can I refresh?
Well, like in the folders?
Yeah, I don't see the folders underneath the heading.
Heading. Oh, that's what that's called. Green wants to know what the industry standard JavaScript testing framework is.
I don't know if there's a standard. Things like Jest show up a lot in React and front end development. Mocha, along with Chai and Sign On. I'll explain what those are. It's popular, and so is Jasmine. And then there's other ones like JUnit for, I don't know whether they're for Java. There's a bunch of them. For JS, yeah.
If you click the top right follow participant, maybe it will take you to where I am in the files.
Arg. Yeah, I clicked follow participant, but it's saying you're not editing a shared document. So I think I'm doing something awry, or let me restart VS Code.
What's your favorite testing environment? Kevin wants to know.
I've used I like Jest for the most part, and I like Mocha, Sign On, and Chai. So Mocha being the test runner, Chai being the assertion framework, and Sign On being like the stub mock framework. Oh my goodness. Join. Well, you can.
We could also try like Replit or something like that, like some online.
So you're going to need to install, you're going to need to init an npm package with the terminal, right? Because we're going to need some node packages. Oh, I can see the folders now.
Oh, you can't. Interesting.
So in your TDD folder, yeah, not the parent folder, but in the smaller folder.
Okay. I'm in here. I've got app.js. We did npm init.
Yes. Did you do it in the parent directory or in the TDD directory?
In the parent directory.
You probably want to do it just in the folder, just in the TDD folder.
Why is that? Okay. Got a little baby package.json now. All right. Let's do it.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to focus you.
we're going to use Mocha and Chai to start things off. So you'll want to npm install Mocha and Chai.
What is it with these like drinks? Mocha and chai.
It's memorable.
Okay, they are installed.
Does Node have it? I don't know that answer, Kevin. I've used, and yes, Shah, I've used Cypress. I've also used Playwright, which I kind of like more recently for end-to-end tests. Okay. Let's see here. So you're going to need to at least import or require Chai.
Just like that?
Yeah, and assign it to a variable. Okay. And then below that, we want to use the expect syntax. So you could say, I expect this to equal this. So you would do like const expect equals chai.expect to opt into that syntax.
Wait, what is this expect?
There's a different ways you can write this. You can write the assertions, the things like this says, I expect 5 to equal 5. There's different ways you can write it. There's like, assert equals 5 comma 5, right? That's one way to do it. Can I, let me just write in here.
Yeah.
So you might see something like assert equals actual expected or something like that, if those are two different variables. The way we're going to do it is expect actual to equal expected. So it kind of reads more human language like.
And this is like specifically like testing syntax.
This is the way that the chai and the jest frameworks typically see, right? So I don't want to confuse anyone with stuff that looks too different, but chai offers like a standard assertion one, and then a should syntax. You can go to their docs if you want to see the difference, but I think a good default is to use this expect syntax.
Okay.
If you just go right into a React app and they have jest set up for you, it'll be the expect syntax.
Okay. All right, so we have expect now. Suddenly that word looks really weird to me. Anyway, what do we do now?
Okay. Let's see. Let me get rid of this and this. Okay. So let's say we want to think of a function. Let's think of a really basic function. We want to test something that adds two numbers. Okay. And we want to write the test first. So I want to go back to the Figma document.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And if we go down, we'll see this red-green refactor process. Okay.
Okay.
So we explained why we might want to have automated tests, but why would we want to write the test first, right? What does that do? Why not write it afterwards once you know what the function is? This is going to make your code more easily testable. It will also help guide your code that has some benefits, like it'll be more flexible and modular and et cetera, that we can talk about later. But the first thing you're going to do is you write a test that fails, right? That's the red part.
Oh.
Okay. So that's what we're doing now. Before we write the function, we're going to write the test. It's going to fail. And then we're going to write the minimal amount of code to make the test pass. And that's the green part. And then after that, we're going to be free to make our function better by refactoring it, right? Make it look better, make it nicer, whatever. And that's the refactor part. And then when we add new functionality to our code, we write another test that we expect to fail, that we then write just enough code to pass. And then we refactor it to make it look better. And then we repeat this process.
Why do you write code to fail? Or
Because
test?
you can accidentally write what's called an evergreen test that always passes, in which case it's not doing what you expect. You don't want that. You want to make sure it first fails. And then when you write the code, it passes because you wrote the code correctly, not because you wrote the test incorrectly.
Oh. Okay.
We can see an example of that in a second. All right, so let's go back to our code.
Okay.
In package JSON, are you familiar with like the module syntax, like the import and export syntax in JavaScript?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we can write, we can add type module to this JSON.
Oh wait, I don't know how to do that. What do I just do type?
Yeah, the property name is type,
Like
and then the value is module.
that?
Yeah, that's it. And it's not going to like trailing commas in regular JSON. So if you save this, okay. And so now,
Why do you
let's
have
write
to put that in there? Why can't it just do it by itself? Like, I don't feel like I've ever done that before.
This is so we can use, I don't know if you've written JavaScript code that's going to import like functions from another JavaScript function. Usually like you bring it into HTML. Or you've used TypeScript, which converts those import statements into older JavaScript require syntax.
Okay.
Anyway, when you are in a function or in a file and you see import, something from some library, that's the newer the ES 2015 or ES6 syntax. And you also might see export function, my function something, right? This is newer syntax. The older way is you'd have to do like module dot exports, and you'd have to provide an object with all the things that exported it. So for simplicity, I think we just turn it on and use the newer JavaScript.
Okay, I've seen both of those, but yeah, let's do that.
The ES6 modules is a whole complicated thing that will quite frequently confuse me.
Okay.
Okay. Let me remove that. Okay, so in Mocha and Jest, right? These are the test runners. The first thing you do is create a test suite so you can use the describe keyword. Okay.
Oh, what is a test suite?
Test suite is just a collection of individual tests.
Okay.
It's like a named grouping. So, my first test suite. Okay. And then you can use this describe function that is part of Mocha, and it'll be available in the global namespace there. And then the second one argument is a callback. Okay.
Okay.
And then so individual tests go within the suite. Anyway, this string is just a name for this test suite. So you can then refer to this by name if you want to run this block and not second block.
Okay.
So you can group them and organize them as you would like. And so the second one here is the individual test. And so you might see test something, right? A lot of times you'll see it.
Oh, I saw it the other day. I didn't know what it meant, but
it just indicates the test. It's just sort of, because what will happen is you'll write it, and then a lot of the convention is to write should return the correct sum, right? So you give a name, and they often start with should, like it should do. Like my first test suite, it should return the correct sum. Or you could rename the top thing with the name of the function, like add two numbers. Let's say that's the first thing we want to do. So add two numbers should return the correct sum. And then you write the test code in here.
okay.
Okay, I'm going to go through this first one, so I think that'll be helpful. First thing we need to do is we can follow this pattern. And this pattern is like the assert, assemble, action. This is incorrect. This is the assemble action assert. Okay.
Okay.
So often in tests, you don't necessarily care like how the function works, right? So the function might be simple as add two numbers where you understand it, or it might be very complicated, but it doesn't really matter. So let's go back to the Figma for a second. And I can just draw next to our chart here. So we'll call this like the black box, right?
Okay.
So this is your function. You only really care about the inputs and what you get out. Okay.
Okay.
So if we're only caring about the inputs and the outputs, and we don't care what goes on inside the function, now we can come back to our test. Okay.
Okay.
So you would say, if your function is going to add two numbers, you might say, say const input 1, give it a number. Const input 2, give it another number. Now you want to know what the outputs are, or you're gonna make it. If we added these two together, what's the expected output?
15. Sorry.
Yes. Quiz. All of a sudden, I stopped talking. This is it. This is what we've assembled. We've assembled the input data and we've assembled the output data.
Okay.
Our action is call the function under test, right? So we're going to say our function is going to return some result, and then our function just add two numbers because that's what we decided we're going to call, right? So input 1, input 2. Now this function, which does not yet exist, if we give it two numbers, we're expecting result to equal 15.
Okay.
So then we could say expect. So this is our assertion, right? This is where we are telling it what we expect to be true. We expect result to equal expected output. This is just the syntax for chai.
Okay.
Jest, I think if you were using jest in React, it would be like to equal.
Okay.
So whatever framework you're working with, it'll have slightly different syntax, but it'll be fairly similar.
So, like, if this is testing, like a piece of actual code, like that's in like a different like JavaScript file, for example, how would you like integrate that into a test like this? Do you grab like the same constants? Do you like import them into this document?
Good question. So if we are importing libraries here at the top, import local code below. So we can import something from our app.js work. We can say add two numbers. This function doesn't exist yet, and JavaScript is not going to warn us that this doesn't exist, but if you were in TypeScript, it would be telling you like, hey, can't find this. But yeah, this is, we would import it from app.js.
So like you could like import like the function that you're trying to test or the
It's exactly what we're doing.
component.
Yeah. Okay, so if we actually we're in app.js. Okay, so I've missed a small key point here that also I did a typo here. Thank you, Navi91. Commodore, I will have to get back to your question. I would just pick somewhere to start and just work at it like small pieces. Just start, like make a website and then go step by step. Let's see here. Okay, so we actually wrote all of this in the app.js and we want to write it in a separate test file.
Oh, okay.
So I'll go ahead and, or you can go ahead and make a separate file. Just call it app.test.js.
Okay.
And then we'll cut and paste all this code into that file.
Is this like a special format already because I said the test.js?
Well, what'll happen is the test runner, I think, will look for that extension. So
Okay.
yeah, it's not. No, there's nothing different than the name of the file. It's still a JavaScript file, but Mocha or Jest will target files that are named specific ways. So you
Okay.
might see test or you might see spec, SPEC.
Okay. Yeah, it's has like a orange JS instead of a yellow JS. So.
Oh, cool. I got my little icon. It looks like a little like science beaker
Oh.
for test. Okay, so this is basically it for the writing a test. Now we're going to run the test runner and make sure it fails. So in our package JSON, we have a script called test that currently says like echo no test specified.
Okay.
We're going to replace that with the word Mocha.
Just everything is just Mocha.
Yep, it'll just be Mocha.
Okay.
And then if we've got our stuff correctly, it should just detect the tests by the file names.
So why would it Mocha work if we haven't like we didn't do expect Mocha, we did expect chai, unless they always go together.
They're not, they don't always go together, but they're just, the way they wrote them is they're separate things. Like the Mocha is responsible for running the tests, right? So the describe block, the it block, like you can say like how long before a test will time out and which tests to run. Like that's what Mocha controls. And they left which assertion library and which other libraries to separate things. So it's kind of a little more modular. Whereas Jest, or I think even Jasmine, they try to do it all at once. So it kind of like combines 3 in 1. And here we're going with separate ones.
And these always like go together, like Mocha and chai always go together.
It's very, very common.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you Google stuff, you'll see tons of Stack Overflow things on Mocha and Chai. And probably sign on to.
Okay.
We can show Jess later if we got time or another session or whatever you want.
Okay.
So yeah, so now we just do npm run test from within the TDD directory, and we would expect it to run correctly but show a failing test.
Yeah, it says no test files found test.
Okay, let's create a folder called test inside TDD.
Okay.
And then let's move our app test.js in there.
Okay.
And then we want to change our path to our import, where we're importing from app.js. We're going to correct the file path there.
Like, oh, I see what you're saying. So we would say like, wait, we're not importing anything though. Are you talking about on line 6?
Yeah, 6.5.
Because app.js is empty.
Yeah, it's fine. We know it's going to fail because we haven't written the function yet.
Oh. So it would be like .. like that or no?
Yep. Go up one level. Yep.
Okay. Because now they're in different folders. Okay.
Green Scars thinks it would be a good idea to show the chai docs. So on my screen, I'll go to JS docs.
Is it chai protocol? No. Chai.js probably.
I did chai.js. I think JS is helpful in the Google search. I'm not sure if.
I think I'm here. So some special cursive on the site.
Okay. Yeah, you can. What's the URL you're at? I'm at chai.js.com.
Yeah, I'm at chai.js.com/API, but I can not do the / API. There we go. I'm here.
Okay.
Wow.
This is a little more technical than the guide in the beginning. You just go to chai.js.com
Yeah.
and scroll down. There's like examples of should, expect, and assert syntax just below.
Okay.
We're using expect. So expect food to be a string, expect food to equal bar, to have a length of 3, or T to have a property, flavors, right? So if you have an object, you can expect that object to have certain keys or properties.
So, like, why would you use one of these versus the other? Why would you be like, I'm feeling like should today? Or you'd be like, no, expect clearly makes more sense.
It's personal preference.
Okay.
I chose expect because it's what I use, and it's similar to what you'll get out of the box with Jest if you run a create React app.
Okay.
So the syntax to be a, to be, to equal, to have length of. We'll just have to look at the docs when we want to test for specific things.
Okay.
Hi, Zalbia.
So NFG Codec says, why Mocha over Jest? With Chai, you still need Mocha, and there's serial, which can cause testing nightmares with mocks and dataset. I didn't understand any of that.
I think Mocha is a little easier to perhaps set up. I guess I could be wrong, but for the backend stuff, my experience with Jest is usually like on the front end stuff, we were using Jest DOM. So I just chose it. It also kind of tells you how they are different pieces. Like the test runner is different from the assertion stuff in some cases. You could use Jest. I use it when I use React apps or Vue apps. I used Jest.
So with this test, we're saying we're bringing Chai up in here, and we're tapping into the expect syntax. Then we are importing something that doesn't exist from the app.js folder, and then we're saying the thing we just imported, it should return, given these inputs and outputs, it should return this function called.
Basically, eventually we'll get it to work, and then result will equal 15.
But for
it's
right,
going to fail first because this function doesn't exist, and
right,
it'll say like this doesn't exist. So
right. So we needed to make the failing test, and so to fail, something we knew would fail was importing something that wouldn't exist, right?
Right.
Okay. That makes sense to me then.
So if did we run this? Did it run successfully yet?
Oh, wait. I ran it and it said, oh, wait, I have to run it again. Okay.
Oh, we moved it. We moved it because I think it by default expects Mocha wants it in a test folder.
Okay. It says the requested module ... app.js does not provide an export named add2numbers. So that seems right.
Perfect. So what's cool about test-driven development is the errors tell you the next thing you need to do. So you don't have to know everything. You just kind of like follow the errors. So now our app.js needs an export called add2numbers. So now we can go into app.js and make a function called add2numbers.
Is that how the syntax is like that?
So we're going to go very step by step, like almost nauseatingly slow, just to show you, just to like practice the steps.
Okay.
So let's just export add2numbers, make a function or export function add2numbers, and have it return nothing. Just give it no arguments, no return.
So like it as it is right now, it looks good.
I got to give it the curly brackets. I believe.
Wait, where?
At the end.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think the syntax for functions require the function body.
Okay.
Okay.
So
We'll save this, run the test, we'll get a new error.
we did. It says requires not define an ES module scope. You can use import instead.
Okay. In that case, we could import chai from chai instead of the require. I guess it's going to be mad at us.
Okay. So import chai from. Do I put it in like quotation marks like that?
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you, the difference between common JS and ESM modules gives me a headache all the time.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're using the ES module stuff
Oh.
with the import statement. I also lean heavily on TypeScript to sort of manage it for me, so I'll get it wrong.
All right. It says add two numbers should return the correct sum. Assertion error expected undefined to equal 15.
Yeah. Okay. So this is basically saying our function returns undefined, but we expected it to equal 15. Right? Let's say we had mistyped our test and we instead wrote expected output to equal expected output, right? So on line 22, if you replace result with expected output.
Wait, what does this do?
This will result to true, right?
Because it means 15 will be equal to 15.
Yeah. So if we go ahead and run this, save this and run the test.
It's true. It loved it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is why we want the test to fail first, so that we want to make sure it's failing as expected until we write the part that will make it work. I just wanted to show you what that would look like if we had typed something in wrong.
Okay.
All right. So we go back to expect result to equal expected output.
Okay.
Yeah, function doesn't do anything at the moment. Green scar says no delete undefined, but expected output is 15. Yeah, okay. Anyway, now what we do is we update our function to do the code correctly, and then we keep running the test until it passes.
So we do that like by writing the function out in app.js?
Yep.
Okay. So
we're finally at the part where we're writing the actual code. You can just add it to the existing line you've already got there.
Oh, okay.
So remember, thinking in terms of inputs and outputs, we know our inputs, so we can put those in, and then we can get to the outputs.
I don't know if this is right, but like that? Or return.
Yeah, let's do that. Orenthian's asking, have I ever heard of mutation testing? Yes, I have. I don't think I fully understand how it differs. Yeah, I don't think I fully understand how it differs from traditional TDD. I think is the best answer I can give. Yeah, so Rufio, if you run your test, what do we get?
Oh, so this was okay then?
The test is going to tell us if it's okay.
Oh. Huh. Well. It loved it.
Cool. Okay. So let's say our test, one of the requirements for our test is that if given a string, if one of our inputs is a string, it needs to return a helpful error message.
Wait, what?
We're going to add some functionality to our add two numbers, right?
Okay.
And we're going to follow the same red-green refactor process. So now the new requirement is this function should give a helpful error message when or if one or more of the inputs is a string and not a number.
Okay.
So the first part is to write the test, and you just think of like, okay, how do I define the inputs and outputs?
So would that be in the add two numbers still, or would it be below?
It would be in the add two numbers describe block, but it would be a separate it block.
Okay.
Um,
So we're trying
hey,
to
Peter. Go ahead.
say if it
It
is a string.
should something.
Should return an integer, maybe. Right?
The library, we are using the Mocha test library with chai assertion library, and that's it. It's just vanilla JavaScript.
So one thing I have a question about is, so in like, we wrote this first and we had input 1, input 2, expected output. And then I used the same for like the actual function in app.js. Did I need to use the exact same names, or could I
Nope.
have, okay.
Yeah, the name of the function parameters, it really has nothing to do with the name of the arguments you put into the function.
So is it like, would it be good though for consistency to keep those the same or no?
Yes, although sometimes you're not the same person who's naming the variables, so
So
it's not that, I think, important. It's whatever makes sense inside the function, and then whatever makes sense in the outside the function, right? That should probably lead you to choosing the variable names.
okay.
Yeah, so in this case, the positions matter, not the name of the variables.
Okay. Positions. So if we did another test, we could say,
Yep. So a lot of times you'll do a lot of very similar, like repeating stuff. So you can copy paste like all of our first stuff into the second block, and then just modify it. You wrote should return an integer.
I just copied it, but oh no, I did that. Yeah, I did do that. Never mind.
Yeah.
You're
So
right.
this scenario is it should return. Okay, so we could say an error message, but let's say it should return a string.
I thought we didn't want it to return a string.
Let's see here. We want to return an error message, so we could throw an error.
We want to write a
Then,
test that will throw an error message?
not the test to throw an error message, but if the function throws an error message. But I think that's one step ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
So, okay, instead of an error message, let's have our function return false. Okay. If both of the inputs are not numbers. All right. So this will be not something you do, but this will just be a simplification for the moment.
So what should the little name of the test be, or the should return a should? Because we don't like the name should return an integer, right?
Right. So you could say should return false if both inputs are not numbers.
Okay. Okay, so then we want to write it so it will fail
Hey, the last cookie is saying, I would argue expected output is not a good var name for the implementation because we are not testing it. There's nothing we expect. We define the constant as 15, so we name that constant as the expected output. We're expecting 15. We don't know what result is in theory. I think that makes sense. Result's the result of the function, whatever that may be. And the number we're expecting out of it is 15.
I'm not sure how to tell it that I want these to...
Just make one of them a string.
Oh.
Give it the old string moose.
Moose? Oh, yes, I like that.
Input one is now moose.
Heck yeah.
A string moose.
I love string mooses.
Or you can string parrot, whatever your spirit animal is.
Okay, we can't go there. I'm going to keep moose, but it is not my spirit animal. I'd like to clarify this.
Oh, the last cookie is saying in the implementation of the function. That's probably a good point. But we can go back and refactor that.
So
now we...
So to equal to false.
Yep, you already updated the assert statement, so that's good. So then we run it and see expect it to fail.
So it doesn't even care about this expected output line right now, I think.
Well, you could have made expected output false instead of 15, and then, you could remove it if you want.
Oh, we can make it equal to expected output, which should be 15. That's what you're saying.
You could have given the value of expected output as false, assigned a false to it, and then kept the variable in the assert statement is all I was saying.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It hated it. Unexpected token. That is not what I thought it would say.
Where is it saying that?
It's not telling me the line.
Probably missing a parentheses or bracket somewhere.
Are we?
AAA, nice.
Well, this is doing funky stuff.
Peter, what are you saying? I'm trying to read chat. I don't think I'm keeping up, though. I'm falling behind.
Okay, I put in an arrow function, which it seemed to want. We did it.
Okay. Cool.
Wait, why is the first... Wait. What is this saying to me? Can you see it?
So, yep, I can see it. So it says first should return the correct sum. It ran all of our tests, right? So the first test is still passing. The second one's failing. And it's saying the assertion error expected moose 10 to equal false. So we were expecting false, but we got this other thing called moose 10 out of our function. So it's not behaving the way we want.
Okay.
Okay. So now that our test has failed, right, we did the red part. Now we do the green part. We make it pass, writing the minimal amount of code. And then we can do the refactored part.
Well,
don't change the test. That's what you were about to do. Sorry.
Wait. Don't change the test, but fix it.
The test is working, or the test is failing as expected. And now we need to update our actual code to pass the test.
If input 1
change the test to make it pass. Only when the deadlines are really tight. Expect true to equal true. Look, it passes.
I don't think you can just do like quotation marks to make it a string, right? That's not a thing.
I don't think it's a thing, no.
So
You can use the type of operator to check.
what type of operator? What is the type of operator? Type of input 1?
Yep.
Equals string?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yep. You could basically say if type of input 1 equals string or type of input 2 equals string, do something.
Oh, this is good for me to know because I did not.
I'm actually going to use the restroom real quick here.
Go for it.
I'm not actually following you, so my screen is not up to date. Let me do that. And I'll let you keep running this test when you think you've got it, and then follow the errors, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Sup, little freezy. Okay, so we're trying to make this pass. Let me say return. Or wait. Turn false. But that doesn't. Wait. But that doesn't. I don't think we want this thing. The call should adhere to the function's interface. Wait, what does that mean? Turn error. Like this? Error. But we don't want to return expected output then, right? Just a text string error. Do we like this one? Or I would just say error, boy. Return false? Okay. It hated it. Because it's still undefined. False, false. Okay. I have not been looking at chat. I do apologize. Yeah, but we already did the failing test or whatever.
Catch me outside. How about that?
How about that? Also, we are only going for like 40 more minutes because I have a job fair I have to go to today. So, Blood, I think you asked a while ago how long this was. It's not a long stream today. I apologize for that. Issue with this approach is that it doesn't handle objects, arrays, maps, sets. You know.
All right, I'm back.
Oh my goodness, I got people redeeming stuff. I didn't even see it. Okay. It worked. We got it to pass.
Excellent. Okay. Let's try another one.
Wait, so, but what about like because you said like it's a, wait a second. You said that you go from red, green to refactor. So we just got green. So what is the refactor?
Okay, so if we look at our add two numbers function, right? We could do some refactoring. We could say, first off, maybe it's best to do this if check that checks whether the numbers are correct before actually doing the adding. So if you just swap those statements, the if statement with the line 5.
Wait, why am I switching it?
Because let's say that instead of adding, we were doing some expensive calculation or something that would actually fail, like if the data types were not correct. We want to check if the data is in the correct type first before doing that.
Oh.
So we would probably do this if check the first thing in the function. So we're making a code change here, which is refactoring. And what will happen is we can make this code change with more confidence because we save it and we run our tests, and the tests will tell us that our functionality remains the same. So go ahead and
we say, let's make this baby fail, and then we say, let's make this baby work, and then we say, let's make this baby pretty. Is that what's up?
Yeah. Okay. So yep, you can make it pretty, you can make it better, you could do all sorts of stuff. Extract, if it's a large function, like if you wrote this function and it was like, you know, a page long or something, you could say, hey, maybe I can pull stuff out of it. But your tests make sure you haven't done anything to break what you had working already.
Okay.
Yes, you can probably do a guard for not equal number. It'd be better. You'd even want to do not equal. You probably even want to do strict equals. So you can also rename the variable expected output to just output, or all these things are valuable refactors.
What is guard clause?
He's referring to like a type guard, which is basically what this if statement is. We're checking the type. We're guarding the rest of our code to make sure that the inputs are the correct type.
Okay. But is there a different way to write this that they're trying to say that we should write it?
Instead of checking if it's a string, we could check that it's equal to a number, or if either of them are not equal to numbers.
So that could be like further
false.
Sort of specification, right?
Say again?
I said we could do more specification for like numbers.
Yeah, you could say type of input 1 not equal number. That in that case, if the input to your function was like an array or a plain object or something else, it would catch it, right? It'd be more robust. You're making the function more fault tolerant or robust.
Okay. Is that something we should do, or do you want to write another test?
I think handling types, I think we should move on because we're trying to teach the practice and not like writing robust code.
Okay.
I mean, that's all good things that we want to do, but let's just try another example of the pattern here, okay?
Okay.
So I think we should do a new function.
Oh, okay.
Right. So let's make a new describe block or change the name of the second one. So this function, right, it's going to take a list of objects, right, an array of objects. These objects are going to have a name and an age property. And you want to return the ones that are greater than, I don't know, 18 or 21.
Okay, so we would say it, and then we say should return objects with values greater than 18.
Yeah, with age greater than 18. Sounds good.
Age. And then
I actually don't use to match snapshot that often in FG codecs. I found that it was kind of noisy, right? We had to update them quite a bit, the snapshot tests.
Const name equals Rufio.
I'm confused. I usually use snapshots for like visual regression stuff.
What are snapshots?
Snapshot tests were, they take a say you rendered a component, it renders into a bunch of divs and p tags and CSS and stuff, right? And so the first time you run the test, it creates a snapshot of that output. Right, it remembers what the text is, and then every time you run the test, it checks the new result against the old result, and if they don't match, it fails the test, and it will tell you. And then you have the option of either correcting the tests or correcting the problem, or telling the test that, hey, I need you to update to the new snapshot. This is a legitimate change.
But you don't have to do that. The snapshot.
No, I wouldn't worry about it for a while.
Okay. So we would call the function. I would say const.
Yeah, Peter came up to the same thing that I did, is where I was concerned people were just, they failed so many times, people were just updating them and not really checking whether there was a legitimate reason or not. And then it was kind of like a bunch of false positives where people had made meaningful changes to, say, like the style of a element, and then my experience wasn't that they were that great. I'll probably revisit them soon.
Okay. I'm thinking I'm on the right track here. Can you say to equal greater than E18? That's not a thing.
No, so here's our input. Let's have this function take one input, and that's going to be a list of objects, and not the describe block, but in where we're doing our assemble part, right? We have const name and age. Nope, not there either.
Okay.
The where we have const age and name. Let's just have like const input equals an array, and in that array, make, say, two objects, and they both have the properties age and name, but give them different values. Yeah. So I'm looking something like const thing equals
Are you saying I'm ageless? Because yes.
I don't know. You know, name. No.
Okay.
So that's the input, right? And you have maybe more or less, well, not less, but you would want multiple objects, but basically a list of data, right? So this is kind of something you would get if you were getting a list of users and it had a bunch of user information in it. I'm gonna remove age and name here. And then we want our function just to return those that are over, 18. So you'd have to, let's have you add an element so that we can get a good set of fake data here.
Wait, so just like add another object? Is that what you're saying? No.
Yeah, this is a list of objects, an array of objects.
And you want me to do what you just did?
Yeah, I want you to add some more. And
okay.
I don't remember what it was, but I don't want to deal with nan as far as this part of the test, so.
Yes. I don't even think that's how you spell that, but we're going with it.
That's good. Yeah. So since the idea is we're going to filter for people above 18, we do want to have someone in the list that's not 18.
So you're saying someone would actually name their child Frederick?
Yes, it's possible. At some point that happened. All Fredericks on this earth at one point were childs. Those childs had parents.
Excellent. So maybe like 2 that pass and 2 that don't, maybe?
So Megabot's asking, what are the benefits of TDD over not TDD? Mainly, TDD influences the design of your functions, and you end up with functions or code that's more easily testable. Because if you try and write tests, so first off, if you choose to test or not test, and if you want to test, make automated tests, it's easier to sort of write the tests and the code at the same time. To go back becomes much more difficult. Your code gets coupled with, you know, reading from the file system and writing to or making calls to the network. And if you write the tests first, your code is more easily testable. It kind of breaks up the logic separate from the other parts that are like calling the network and writing to file systems. And in, you know, by accident, it becomes more modular and more extensible. So that's my summary of why test-driven development is nice.
Okay, so we have an array of objects, and
Yep.
we want it to give us objects.
Yeah, we want to give it we want it to return an array of just the objects that are greater than 18.
Array of objects that are...
So what would that output look like? We're still just defining, we're assembling our expectations of this function. We're going to input thing, and we're expecting some sort of output. So what will that look like?
I don't think it liked it.
No, so we're thinking like another variable called expected output, perhaps. And then this is going to be an array of objects, but it's going to be only the objects we want.
Oh, but wait, I shouldn't be putting the right answer though, because we're trying to make it fail, right?
Well, it'll fail because the function doesn't exist yet.
Oh, but I should be
It'll fail because we haven't written any code, any actual code for this function yet. So that part shouldn't be a problem.
But I should be making a...
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. You want to essentially write the answer now.
Okay. I don't know why I just did things the way I did, but that's okay. And Bartholomew and Bertha can stay there. So this is to equal expected.
Yeah, that looks good to me. The expected output value.
Expected output. Right.
So now basically the first thing where we defined const thing and we defined const expected output, that's our assemble phase, right? And so now we want to do our action phase, which is the action we're taking is to call the function we're interested in testing. And then after that, we do the assertion phase where we make statements that we expect to be true.
Call the function. Wait a second. I skipped a step, I think. So we would say let result equal name and age. Name and age. Thing, maybe? We haven't called thing.
Yep, thing's the input, right?
And the output is expected output.
Yeah. it follows this very repeating pattern of like I define the inputs, or I make some fake inputs, right? And then I say, okay, given those inputs, what do I expect the output to be? And I write that output. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to call the function that I'm interested in testing. And then we say, okay, I expect that result to match the thing I wrote earlier that I expected.
So when we call the function, will we always be trying to call the function with the input and the output?
No, we're not. This function just needs the input or the input. So we just got one input right now.
But it doesn't want the output.
We're not here, no. So this just takes the input and then we get this result, right? And then we expect the result
equal to expected output.
The expected output. Yeah.
Whew. Wow. And it failed.
So name and age is not defined. So we probably didn't even import it. So maybe we can write an import statement.
You would write the import statement. Oh, at the very beginning. Probably.
Yep. Like the very next thing that error message tells us to do is get it into our file. You can just add, we're going to put name and age in app.js. So you can just add it with a comma to the first import statement. Yeah. So now we could skip ahead because we know what we need to do, but we could just run the test again and it will tell us what we need to do. Okay. Probably going to say something like,
it wants us to have the function.
App.js doesn't have this thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we make this thing.
Yep.
So export function, name and age. And we're going to
I have an example with hooking up TypeScript to Mocha and stuff, but it was a pain in the ass for me to get connected correctly. And I've used it quite a bit. That's why we're not using TypeScript yet.
This one would just take in one thing, maybe. We want it to return objects with age greater than 18. So if we said array.age, wait a second. What if we map through the array?
Nice.
If
good catch.
It is greater than, or maybe not map, maybe filter.
Even better.
So we would filter it, and then we would maybe return the array.
What is E in that
element?
In that statement?
Oh, you know what? E.age, huh? No.
Not there. Yeah.
E is going through each object. So we would say E.age. So for each object, the age property inside it needs to be greater than 18. And only return those ones. Except, you know, we say return.
Cool. See if it works.
Okay.
Writing in Rust the next stream. Ooh. Well, what do we get?
It says...
All right, so we got that's that red part there, right?
Yes.
So...
But I feel like it's expected the actual thing, like the thing that it got. Because they look the same.
Okay, so we need to do a little debugging here. Let's look at your input and outputs in the test file.
So we would want the first two, and in the output we have the first two. Maybe it's because we have a comma? No, it probably is fine.
I don't think it should be that.
And then we're putting input
Okay.
is as the in as the
Let's
parameter.
try and console log the result at the end of our test here. Just to see, just to get a visual on what we're doing here, because the error message isn't so nice.
Well,
Yeah, so the last cookie is saying it's a nice idea to also test edge cases, and I agree. So what would happen is, if you were writing your add numbers code, right, or your add number function, you would continue to add more test cases, more it should statements that then check like, okay, does it handle negative numbers correctly? Does it handle large numbers? What happens if I put in 3 inputs or only 1 input? And you just keep adding test cases like this, and then you cover the not just the happy correct paths, but how does it handle incorrect things? But we are short on time, so I thought we'd try another option with like a different, more realistic scenario, what we might do.
oh, I see it. Okay,
You see where we printed it out?
the
Okay.
console log, because I said this is the way.
Oh, okay. I know what the problem is.
What is it?
Okay. So in Chai, to equal is doing object identity, and not it's not doing a deep equality. So you need to add to deep equal instead of to equal. So it's checking the identity of both arrays, and even though they have the same values, they're not the same array, not the same instance of an array. So it's two dot deep dot equal in Chai.
So wait, deep equality means they're like the same. They have the same content, but they're not the same object or whatever.
Right. They don't have to be the same object, but all their values of their content is the same, right? All the strings and numbers or stuff are the same. So I think now, if you run it, it'll pass as expected.
Okay.
This is a common gotcha that's gotten me before.
It loves it. Okay.
Okay.
So we made it work, and now we would make it pretty. I think it looks fantastic, but we could make it not.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's pretty good. What would be something else that you'd want to do to improve this function? We tested the happy path.
Well, maybe we say, does it have an age?
Yeah. What happens if something doesn't have an age?
I don't know if that works, but
We're not writing the test first. We are violating the number one.
wait, but this
part
isn't
of
a test. This is an app.js, isn't it?
Right. This is not the test, but we're changing functionality, or are we just doing a refactor?
Well,
There's not much to refactor here.
I was just trying to say if like this is on the, if it is on the object, then do it. But if it's not, return an error. Would that be changing the functionality?
Yeah, because you're now your function, in addition to trying to do this filter, is also going to throw an error in certain cases. So what you can do is write a test that expects an error.
Oh, we would just write another test.
Yep, we're adding functionality, so we're gonna write the test first.
So every time you add functionality to like a function or a component or something, you need to write a new test for it.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. You can write extra tests when you add functionality. You can write extra tests when you want to cover more different scenarios, different sets of inputs.
Okay.
So this is good. We haven't written a test that expects an error yet, so this is a good, slightly different scenario to work through.
Should return an error.
We would say it throws an error. Should throw an error.
Is that just what people say? Is that why?
I would say throw an error if age is undefined.
It's not. That wasn't descriptive the way I had written it.
Yeah, we could also say if age is not a number, we could throw an error or something like that. So different ways to go about this.
So we could use probably the same similar stuff, but it can't be the same actually.
It'll be close. Yeah, it'll definitely be the same input. Slightly, you can modify it slightly.
Bertha is ageless.
Cool. All right, so now we're not going to have an expected output. We're going to expect our function to throw an error. So what I would do is write like const test function is an anonymous function.
Wait. Const test function what?
Equals an anonymous function that calls our name and age function.
What is an anonymous function?
The fat arrow functions. There's one way to do an anonymous function.
Oh.
So you could do const test function. Yeah, like that.
Okay. What I'm supposed to... I'm saying...
Now this can call name and age with input. So as the test code is being executed, right? It's going to go line by line down like this. When it hits name and age, we don't want it to actually call name and age at that point. We want to call it within the expect statement. So what you'll do is here you'll write expect test function to throw with maybe like a specific message. Okay. If you had called name and age here, right, with input, and it threw an error, it wouldn't give you the correct. It may not give you the correct message, right? So I usually wrap it in a anonymous function so it gets called within this expect statement.
Wait, so by doing a test function, you can just... You're saying you could put like name and age with input in it within that function and that way be able to call it in the expect?
Yeah, so you're just wrapping this in a function. So this closure gets created, but it doesn't get called until the framework calls this function
for it.
Right. So when we pass the function into the expect statement, it will call this function, and then it will know whether it'll be able to check whether it threw an error or not.
Okay.
We'll show it the other way around, and you'll see once we get this working, we'll show it what happens if you didn't wrap it in a function like this.
Okay. See ya, Bull. Thanks for hanging out. Then we need to input, and we wanted to throw.
Thanks, Dean Bull. Have a good night.
When we wanted to throw like an, we don't. If it says throw, is it explicitly already like an error?
Yeah, so throw or two throws, whatever the syntax here is, this is what you would do if you're expecting the function. If something inside the function is going to throw an error, right? Because the function's not going to return a value anymore because it's going to throw an error or an exception. So it's a little different instead of just getting the result or the return value.
Okay, so we're saying name and age, which is trying to see if like people are above 18. We're saying, well, stick this in there, and if there's anything in there, or yes, wait, test function. No, we haven't said anything to say anything about age, I think.
Yeah, I think we've just defined this test, right? This test is setting our expectations for the functionality we're about to write. We're saying we want our function to throw an error if one of our objects is missing age, right? Because for whatever reason, we have to have that value there.
Okay.
So rather than continue to let the code execute, we want a very, very obvious error. So that's just the example we're working on right now.
Did I say if input?
I don't think you need that. What are we trying to do?
Well, I need to say if there's. I need to see if there's the age, right?
No, you don't. That the age check will be within the name and age function. In this test, we're just wrapping this, and we can go ahead and run this test, and we'll see it fail because our function should not throw an error.
Oh, okay. So it will fail because it's successful.
Correct. I think it will not throw an error, and then it will fail because we are expecting it to throw an error.
Has anyone ever said that before? It will fail if you're successful. Yep. Like you said. To throw an error, expect it to throw an error. So we have to make it so it doesn't. Wait, no, so it does throw an error. Within here. Which is what I was trying to do before. And we were like, no. If array.age, wait.
.age is not on the array.
Okay, wait a minute. If we have to be able to grab if say r.map given an element if it has
Bye, Peter. Thanks for watching.
See you, Peter. If there is no age quality. Oh wait, this would actually be at the beginning, maybe, if I'm doing it right, which is debatable. No, it doesn't like that.
Probably zoom in on my... Zoomed in too far.
Age. There's no...
So this, your callback to filter is a function. If you want it, you can expand that. You know, you could add the curly brackets in that arrow function, and then you could write your check inside that, right? Because this is filter will go through each element in the array.
So we're making it dry, keeping it dry.
Yeah. So you'll have to return the logic here, the greater than comparison, because this is what will return the true or false Boolean that filter requires. But in front of that,
No, we like that.
Yeah, we need to, because we want to return an array, but within the function inside of filter, has to return a true or false. So that's what this is doing. And above that, though, we can add a logic check and throw an error.
So we could say if there's no such thing as e.age, then
Busy.
throw error. Can I say throw error?
You can say throw new error, like capital E, the class. And then in error, in the you use parentheses, right? Like you're calling a function or a class constructor. It's the full error, ERROR. And then inside there, you give it the message.
Oh wait, this is full?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the name of the class or the class in JavaScript.
So this should work.
Let's test it and find out. This is the best part. Does it work? I don't have to think too much about it because I wrote my test. Boom.
It hated it. It says, oh, error including no age, but got whoops, age required. Okay, fine.
Yeah, so this is a situation where now you can think, because you're creating this function, you get to pick what error message you want it to say. Do you change the error message you're expecting, or do you change the error message that your function is going to throw? Either way is fine in this case.
Okay. It was interesting that, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense why it would, because that's what we asked it for specifically. So, it worked.
You get self-confident issues.
We are nerds here.
Yep, huge nerd.
I'm a nerd that doesn't know anything. Is that a thing?
Sure, you're just like a larva nerd. You just learn and grow, and you already know a ton of stuff. So it's just we just keep throwing new stuff at you. That's the problem.
Okay, we should finish this one up, and then I have to go because
this is good. We added some functionality to this other one. Processing a list of users is closer to, something you'd run into. Add two numbers is a good example, but it's very, very simple. So this is it. This is the pattern.
We wrote tests today.
Another day we can go into how this would look with TypeScript, or how this would look with React and Jest, and we can look at end-to-end testing whenever it's convenient for you.
Yeah, I think we definitely should do another.
Catch me outside. How about that?
I think we should do another stream where we go into this more, because this was too short, and I wish I didn't have to leave, but I do.
It's all right. It's still 2 hours long. It's a lot to,
That's
true. A 2 hour long, class lecture would be a long time, right? So this is good.
That's true. Dan, are you going to keep streaming?
I'm going to end.
Okay.
I'm going to end, and we'll just pick up on this topic next time it works for you.
In that case, we got to go raid someone. Thank you, Dan, for doing this with me. I did learn a lot. It was a little confusing, but I don't think that's you. I think that's just because I've never done this before. And it's cool, though. So I look forward to doing it more.
It's really neat when you get to work on a large code base and you've written all these tests and you feel much more confident going back and making changes to stuff you wrote a long time ago or other people wrote. It pays off, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, experience, right? We'll get there. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. See you, Dan. And then, y'all, we gotta go do the thing where we raid someone, and I'm not gonna be around for very long. I gotta go to a job thingamajigger. So it will be. I'm kind of scared. I'm driving. It's like an hour away. I don't actually know React very well, Roberto. We're gonna go to ljtech.ca. I think they're in the 100 devs. I try and follow all the 100 devs people. So hopefully that's actually the case. Thanks, Leah. Do I know how to drive? Yeah, dude. I've been driving for like 10 years. Yeah, almost 10 years. Anyway, I don't have my elevator pitch. Gonna die. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. I will be okay. Alright, I'm almost out of the ads on here just so I can make sure I know what we're doing. They said we're doing software development. Okay. Alright. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And let's hang out on Thursday. Alright. Let's go.